Let's bring on our friend, Tyler Yaremchuk. And Tyler, first question for you. How are the Oilers going to get out of the first round this year if they do not play the LA Kings?
Oh, first off, sorry to hear about your guys' hotel room. I know they messed up and only gave you guys one bed, so you've been sharing. So I know that's been tough. Hope you guys are still getting
Good one, Ty.
We're not traveling with daily Faceoff, so our travel accommodations are a little stronger than that.
Damn, okay, that's actually kind of a good one. How are they going to get out of the first round? Everyone in their division is junk. My biggest fear is that they win the division and have to play Utah, and that's actually a mildly difficult matchup. So it'll be fine. I mean, last night, San Jose, that kind of was a good game to watch and go like, all right, yeah, even though the Pacific Division is not that good, there are still contenders and pretenders in that division. And San Jose,
Tyler,
I think, unfortunately, is a bit of a pretender.
Yeah, I think Connor McDavid gave Macklin Celebrini a little of this last night. Yeah. Like, okay, kid, like, take it easy here. Although Macklin scored, Connor's
goal was ridiculous.
I mean, the points race and like the heart. I mean, it's just kind of getting a little bit ridiculous and out of control. So I think that's something everybody's now just assuming. But let me ask you this, Tyler: why was everybody up in uproar over that clip of Stan Bowman and the war room in Edmonton during the trade deadline? Like, I watched that and I was like, why is everybody freaking out about this? This is like a heavily edited version, like of like a 15 seconds of probably like 4 hours of conversation. Like, why was the reaction so ridiculous, Tyler?
Because people like freaking out about stuff like that. People look for reasons to dislike Stan Bowman. And listen, that's not me saying I won't criticize Stan Bowman. I have this year. I've criticized him pretty heavily for the Tristan Jarry trade. But when you look at that clip, the things that kind of got people riled up was at the beginning when he kind of goes, when he's like, they're not going to get a first round pick, so this is how we get their attention. And everyone's like, well, if you knew they weren't going to get a first round pick, why would you give them a first round pick? And it's like, well, because you needed them to keep 50% of the money, which not every team would have needed them to do, and you needed them to take Andrew Mangiapane. So if you weren't going to give Chicago a first round pick in this deal, Chicago's just going to say, all right, we'll just trade Jason Dickinson to Colorado and get a second, or we'll trade him to Dallas and get a second. Like, the Oilers needed to make a strong offer to get the guy because of everything they needed Chicago to do. So, like, I'm with you. I don't understand why people are freaking out. And yeah, I think you kind of nailed it. There's not much more for me to say than like, it's a clip. It's a 2-minute clip of what I'm sure is a 3-4 week process. I'm sure they didn't just wake up, roll into a meeting and be like, hey, do you guys want to get Colton Dach thrown in this deal? Yeah, he's got 91 hits or 191 hits. Yeah, let's trade for him. Like, that's not how NHL teams operate, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I think the thing that I took away from it was, do people hear when Stan said, we're not playing fantasy hockey. Yeah. You're building a team. Yeah. I mean, if the Olympics taught us anything, it's that you got to have players with roles. I mean, we're here at the Frozen Four, and I'll be honest with you, like, I think this year is more interesting than others because you don't have a team that has five. You know, the last Michigan team that came here to the Frozen Four, they had like 4 or 5 first-round picks, and they were all top five.
Yeah.
The Kent Johnson, I mean, and then they had a bunch of seconds, and then like talking to some of the coaches yesterday, the guys were kind of they were talking about how like now more than ever it's so important. Like they kept like coaches kept referencing the Florida Panthers last night, which I'm sure doesn't make Tyler happy, but yesterday, but it is what it is. Like everyone looks at Florida and they're just like, look how they were built with their size, with their depth. You know, with the fact that like everybody had a role, you knew in what moments of the game, what players would need. And so teams are sort of all trying to replicate that, even at the college level. And so I don't know, like I just didn't, I tried to do one of those like Grok, explain to me why everybody is freaking out about this clip, and it didn't answer me, or I forgot to check, one or the other. But I just thought that was a little bit absurd, Tyler, that happened when people were freaking out like they were.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter's also Twitter, so you're going to get a lot of that. But I still think, and I said this at the deadline, like fit over flair. And that's what Bowman was talking about when he said we're not building a fantasy hockey team. And listen, we got to wait and see what's wrong with Jason Dickinson. He went down last night and it didn't look good. So hopefully that's not like a long-term thing that actually takes him out. Connor Ingram left the game after the second period, like on top of Draisaitl and Hyman not being there. Like, the one legit concern I have right now with this team is that, like, they are not healthy, and there's never a guarantee that you get back to fully healthy. So there's 10 days until they likely open their playoffs on Sunday the 19th. Like, priority number one, as much as I would love to see the Oilers win a division for the first time in my life, it's the longest drought in the NHL, by the way, amongst teams who've done it before. I'd love to see him win the division, but priority one for this team is getting healthy.
I thought, like, didn't I ask you that in the beginning of the year about the division thing? Or actually, that might have been a question we asked Calvin Pickard in the summer about the division, if that was like what was motivating them. Either way, side topic. But Tyler, what have you made of a guy like Jack Roslovic? You know, obviously he came in a little bit late into the season. I think his role is elevated, like you said, with guys being hurt. Last night he had a big game, but he's one of those guys who like can blend in on the first line, probably a better fit in like your middle six. But the Oilers need him to be more elevated than I think what he's been in the past.
Yeah, he's been a really interesting player. Like, he signed on opening day. I was standing at a urinal at the first game of the year at Rogers Place and checked my phone and went, "Oh shit, they signed Jack Roslovic." So, anyways, that has nothing to do with anything. But yeah, he's come in and scored 20 goals without playing on the Oilers' top power play unit. I know he's there now because of, again, injuries, but like, this is a guy who's been very productive without needing to have power play time, without, quite frankly, needing to play with one of Connor or Leon for stretches this year. Like, he is what they wanted Jeff Skinner to be. He is what they wanted Victor Arvidsson to be, all of this stuff. So he's been really, really good. And to your point, like, the versatility of him, where he's skilled enough where if you need him up with Connor, or when Leon comes back, him and Leon have played really, really good together. Him and Connor, maybe not so much of a natural fit when they've had games together this year, but he can do that. If you want to play him on a third line, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they have a third line that's centered around him and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins come playoff time. Like, I do think a guy like Roslovic gives them the ability to really lengthen out their lineup. They don't have to kind of go with a traditional first line, second line, third line, fourth line. I think they can honestly go with like their top six with Connor on one line, Leon on one line. Then I think they can go with a bottom six that's like almost two third lines, one of which may be more defensively responsible with a Dickinson and maybe a Podkolzin on his wing or something like that, or Frederick, and then another third line, we'll call it, that can push the pace offensively a bit more with a Nugent-Hopkins and a Roslovic and whoever else you want to slot there. So he lengthens their lineup. $1.5 million this year. That's an absolute bargain for the amount of production he's given them. And now the question is, is he a guy who's going to stick around past this year? Are they going to find a way to make a contract work? Or are they just going to kind of shake hands and say, hey, you delivered for us, and now you're going to get to go sign up 5x5 somewhere in the summer, and away you go. Thanks for doing business.
Let me ask you about the coaching situation in Edmonton. I mean, they're obviously playing better and they're winning games right now, and they're starting to like look like they're gearing up for a decent playoff run. But we've seen, and this is not an apples to apples situation. I forget the guy's name who got fired in St. Louis when Jim Montgomery became available.
Drew Bannister.
Drew Bannister.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And so I want to know, Tyler, like, with Bruce Cassidy sitting out there and me thinking about Connor McDavid and his hunger to win a Stanley Cup, and the fact that Connor McDavid doesn't really have to worry who the coach is, just from like no coach is going to be barking in Connor McDavid's ear. But you have a guy out there like Bruce Cassidy who, for a short window of time can really help a team get better. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen him do it. And when you think about some of the areas that I think Edmonton has lacked, especially in the regular season, obviously they've been a pretty damn good team down the stretch the last couple of years, and a playoff team the last couple of years. But like, if I was Connor McDavid, I'd be knocking on the door and being like, we need to go get Bruce Cassidy. Like, nothing against Knoblauch. Like, I just feel like, with his urgency to win, a guy is sitting out there. Like, I would have really said that maybe the same thing about Pete DeBoer. Like, I just would have thought maybe Knoblauch, with the whole weirdness between Coffey and Knoblauch, and I don't think that that's overstated, by the way. Like, I think some of the talk about how Coffey's the owner's guy and Knoblauch is potentially not at this moment, and then maybe there's even a little, Jeff Jackson's kind of on an island about this, and you just hear different things, and they're from people that are they're sourced inside of Edmonton. And I just wondered, like, would they do something like that, or would they say, you know what, you're a good coach, but we're going to get a better coach?
Well,
like, is there any conversation about that, Tyler? Like, do you think that's absurd? I mean, where would an Edmonton fan sit in that regard?
There's been some comments this year that have been really interesting. You can actually go back to the end of the Cup final last year. McDavid, after Game 6 when they lost, kind of had a line of something like, we just kept beating our head against the wall, because he was asked, why couldn't you handle Florida's forecheck? And he said, yeah, we're beating our head against a wall. He said, we kept doing the same thing over and over again, and it didn't work. And everyone was kind of like, ooh, that's a weird kind of comment. But at the time, you're like, he's frustrated. They just lost the Stanley Cup again, whatever. And then Leon had that line before the Olympics, where he said, everyone's got to be better, starts with the coaching staff. And it's like, you don't really often hear a star player, because they're the only ones that can do it, kind of go and call out the coaching staff like that. Like, the first thing he said right after we all need to be better was, it starts with the coaching staff. So that was kind of like, all right, that's a little interesting. And then Connor McDavid in the game against after the game against Tampa Bay, when he was asked about why can't the Oilers play a structure as good as Tampa Bay's, said, go ask Knobber. And it was like, whoa, like, you're the captain. You could also have an answer to that. You're the leader of this team. You've been here for a decade. Like, why are you guys always so quick to point the finger at the coaching staff? So listen, I don't know Connor McDavid. I've never spoken really to Connor McDavid. I don't know how he truly feels on this, but reading the tea leaves, I don't think it's a totally incorrect and out there thing to say, to go, yeah, he might welcome a coaching change this summer. But I would add, it's all dependent on how these playoffs play out. If they go and they make the Stanley Cup fire, or if they win the Stanley, you're not firing a coach, obviously, if you win the Stanley Cup. If they roll through 2 rounds of the playoffs and then lose in 7 to Colorado in the Western Conference Final, do you need to fire the coach if you just pushed a better team to 7 games and went on another good run?
Well, how do you feel? Like, do you feel that coaching is a part of the problem, or is it, again, just like the personnel?
No, I think coaching is like a part of the problem. I don't think it's, eating more than 50% of the blame pie or anything like that. I think goaltending continues to be an issue for this team, and Stan Bowman did a really, really poor job of handling that midseason, and he panicked, and he deserves a lot of criticism for that. I think the bottom 6 is starting to come together. I think on the blue line, there's just been some guys who've really struggled this year. Jake Wallman doesn't look like the Jake Wallman that we saw during the Cup run. Darnell Nurse was bordering on unplayable for the first 55, 60 games of the season, and you have no choice but to keep playing him because that he's who you got. The Spencer Stastny trade doesn't look like it's working out all that well. He's been healthy scratch for, I want to say, 10 straight games now. So there's a bunch of things that like aren't on the coaching staff, but I also think you can look back at the last number of years and like, okay, why didn't Victor Arvidsson work out? Why didn't Jeff Skinner work out? Especially when a guy like Arvidsson can go and all of a sudden he's back to being same old Victor Arvidsson in Boston. Like, okay, why didn't a bunch of these things work out? Well, maybe we can point our finger at the coaching staff. Why didn't they adjust a little bit more in their second Cup final against the Panthers? Yeah, we can probably point the finger at the coaching staff here. Like, at times they, totally lose their D-zone structure. It's the reason why Paul Coffey had to be brought back in. Like, okay, you can point your finger at the coaching staff there. So they're not innocent in the team's struggles and the fact that they're not going to hit 100 points this season and all of that. But I just still don't really view it as like the sole reason why the Oilers can't get over the hump. Like,
it's not
one more. Actually, Colby, like, you talk about Bruce Cassidy, you got to go hire Bruce Cassidy, but go watch those last series, man. Like, Kris Knoblauch outcoached Bruce Cassidy in the playoffs. Like, it wasn't even like Cassidy couldn't figure out how to adjust to McDavid. Knoblauch seemed to just get his matchups off better. Like, that's one where you can point and go, well, again, Bruce Cassidy's won a cup and all of that. He is a good coach, but like, how much better of a coach is he than Kris Knoblauch? I don't know. Well, I'm not totally sold.
Tyler, maybe that's obviously something that can always be debated, and I don't know Kris Knoblauch as a coach nearly as well as you do. Like, you are looking at the Edmonton Oilers every single night of the guy's coaching career, so I'm not going to pretend. But one thing about Bruce Cassidy that I think is different is when his teams have won or made deep runs, there's a commitment to accountability player to player. And because I think the coach is not afraid to hold the best players accountable, more than a lot of coaches are. And again, I know with Connor McDavid, he's always an exception to the rule. Like, you don't need to hold Connor McDavid to accountable to anything. He's the exception for that. But I do think where Bruce could maybe do a better job as Knoblauch is making the other players manage the puck. Like Bruce Cassidy's, his staple is puck management.
Well, they were horrible at this year, Vegas.
This year they were, yeah. And listen, like I said, his voice wore off.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. So, listen, I'm just saying, and I would have said a lot of the similar things about Pete DeBoer, like his defensive zone structure and his teams manage the puck, but he hasn't won a Stanley Cup, like Bruce has. So, you know what, Tyler, I never got off the bandwagon this year, and I continue to think, again, this is obviously a playoff team. This is a team that I think wins the first round of the playoffs. I don't think they're losing to a wild card team.
Well, Ingram got hurt last night too, did he not?
Yeah, but so he left after the second period. Jari comes in, and then like halfway through the period, Ingram during the TV timeouts kept coming back on the ice and stretching out. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that one was just precautionary, that like he felt something and was like, I'm not going to risk it. The one that's concerning, and I haven't seen an update on the game last night, but I don't know about Jason Dickinson yet, because he went down and couldn't put any weight on one of his legs. I think he got hit in the side of the knee with a puck. That one is concerning.
Yeah. All right, Tyler, listen, thanks for getting up with us today. We appreciate it. You obviously have Daily Faceoff Live here coming up in a little bit, and then, ON every day. You guys are moving through that. Will you have a way to watch the Frozen Four in Edmonton?
No, like it's not really carried. I think TSN might carry the finals, and I might be totally out to lunch on that. But like I've never, honestly, like hand up, I've never in my life watched the Frozen Four except for a couple of finals that pop up on TSN.
With how many Canadian players there are, and with like how much TSN covers hockey, like it's kind of crazy to me that they don't like, they're not interested in saying to ESPN, hey, like we'd love Randy Workman is telling us it's on TSN Plus, by the way. But that's okay, good. So there will be. So I know you'll have it on, Tyler, and I know you'll be watching. So we appreciate you, buddy, and we'll talk to you as we make this march towards the playoffs. I mean, geez, it's April 9th. Wow.
Next weekend.
Playoff hockey. Yeah. Wow. It's coming in hot.
I'm excited that it's on TSN. That's like news to me. It's going to be great.
Yeah. All right, good.
Thanks,
Ty.
All
right, Ty.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Morning Cup of Hockey here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, we've got more great hockey content every day. You can catch DFO live at noon and stick around for the Sheet with Jeff Marek at 1 p.m. right here on Daily Faceoff. Until then, keep your coffee hot and your takes hotter.